Hello and welcome to this video on ICD-11 URIs. I'm Dr. Ibrahim from the National Center for Health Information, the WHO Family of International Classifications Collaborating Center in Kuwait. Many of us working in health information are from non-IT backgrounds. ICD-11 is fully electronic. That comes with great features, but also some new concepts. In this video, we'll find out what a URI is and how useful it is for ICD-11 users. Let's take you on a trip to a beautiful village in Switzerland, Grindelwald. If you are here and we want to capture your location, then Google Maps describes your location using two pieces of information. The place you're in other words, the village of Grindelwald, and coordinates to describe your exact location. If others travel to Grindelwald, they can each be described as being in Grindelwald, but the unique exact location of each one won't be lost if we also capture their coordinates. Let's relate to ICD-11. Welcome to an ICD-11 village. Several diseases live here. Each one of them can be described as being an acute vulvitis. But just like in Google Maps, ICD-11 categorizes or classifies each one of them as acute vulvitis. But it also gives a unique identifier to each one of them, because the clinical reality is, although they are all acute vulvitis, they are not exactly the same. So for every diagnosis we type into the coding tool, there is an ICD-11 code under which it is classified and based on which statistical reporting will be done, and a unique identifier, also known as a URI, or Unique Resource Identifier. Let's see it for ourselves on the coding tool. We'll type in vulval cellulitis. The diagnosis appears here under acute vulvitis. Now let's click Details. Under Matching Terms, ICD-11 lists in blue highlight the exact match to our search term, vulval cellulitis. How does that happen? Let's take a sneak peek at what the coding tool was searching through. In the ICD-11 Foundation, under acute vulvitis, there are multiple index terms. It is from this list of index terms that the coding tool found the diagnosis you typed into the search box. You might be wondering what the foundation is. Well, we'll find out in a minute. Now let's click the plus sign opposite our matching term. This opens up Entity Details. It is true that the ICD-11 code is that of acute vulvitis. But look here, under Selected Term, we find our specific diagnosis, vulval cellulitis, and beside it is its unique identifier, or URI. Now if we click Select, then in our medical records database, both the ICD-11 code and URI will be saved. So for statistical reporting, this case will be counted as acute vulvitis, but the exact diagnosis documented by the doctor, vulval cellulitis, is not lost and can be retrieved using the URI. But what is this URI and why wasn't it saved instead? As mentioned before, every entity in ICD-11 has a URI, even the higher level entity acute vulvitis, under which our selected term, vulval cellulitis, is listed. This URI was not saved this time because we have already specified another selected term. As a user, do I need to go through all these steps to save the URI? No. In fact, as a user, you don't even need to know about URIs. For the user, it's business as usual. You type in the diagnosis, click the correct option, and the URI of your specific selected entity will automatically be saved together with the code. But you won't see it here. It will be saved into the medical records database and can be retrieved whenever needed. Now let's answer your question. What is the foundation? We've seen how Google Maps provides us with the exact location using coordinates. But where does Google Maps search to give us that exact location? It searches in Earth, the real world. The ICD-11 coding tool also provides us with the exact location or unique identifier of the entity we are looking for. But where does the ICD-11 coding tool search to give us that URI? What happens behind the scenes is that the coding tool searches through the foundation. This is a huge database of diagnoses, health conditions, and medical terms developed by many teams of clinical specialists. It includes all the entities that exist in ICD-11. To summarize, a unique resource identifier, or URI, is a string of characters that uniquely identifies or points to a resource on the internet. Now let's relate that to an ICD-11 URI. The resource, in our case, is a particular ICD-11 entity, and it points to the entity's specific place in the WHO Foundation on the internet. It's also important to know that the URI attached to an entity is permanent. It will never change. Now let's put it all together. Every entity in the foundation has a URI. Of the entities that are part of ICD-11, only the most common or important terms are given ICD-11 codes. These form the ICD-11 classification or linearization. The rest have only a URI and no code. These will appear as index terms under the categories to which they are classified and will take their codes. Here's an example. Under abscess of liver, only amoebic liver abscess has both a URI and a code because it is considered an important condition from a classification point of view. Each of the other types of liver abscess has a URI but no specific code of their own, so they will all be listed as index terms under abscess of liver and will be coded as DB90.0. But their details won't be lost because the unique identifiers will distinguish them. But how are ICD-11 URIs useful? The URI of an entity is permanent, like a person's DNA. Your DNA doesn't change over time, and neither does the URI of an entity. It remains attached to the same single entity regardless of any subsequent updates. Your DNA doesn't change if you start speaking another language. Entity URIs remain attached to the same entity irrespective of which language that entity is translated into. The maintenance of ICD-11 is handled in English, but the content model of ICD-11 is language independent and allows binding of any desired language to the entities in the foundation. URIs also facilitate links to external terminologies. ICD-11 includes rare diseases. Only a few have an individual code, but all of them have their own URI, allowing clinicians, rare disease registries, and researchers access to data on conditions of interest. Let's see what's in our cart now that we've come to the end of this video. The foundation is a huge database of health conditions and medical terms through which the ICD-11 coding tool searches for the diagnoses we type into it. Each ICD-11 entity has a unique identifier in the foundation, known as a URI. Not all foundation entities have ICD-11 codes in the classification, but all of them have URIs in the foundation. The URI remains attached to its entity, so it doesn't change when ICD-11 is updated or translated to other languages. Data on rare diseases is preserved when captured by the ICD-11 coding tool because although many rare diseases don't have their own codes, every one of them has its own URI. Thank you for watching and see you in our next video.